Investigating the investigators. A group of House GOP lawmakers are calling for a second special counsel to probe alleged misconduct at the FBI and the Department of Justice. New York Republican Congresswoman Claudia Tenney is one of those members who's calling for this. She joins me right now. Good to have you here, Congresswoman. Happy Memorial Day.
Thank you. Thank you to you, too, as well. Thank you to our veterans and people who gave the ultimate sacrifice
for sure.
For our freedom,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Absolutely. We have what we have today because of them. But let me ask you, because part of what we have is historically trust in our institutions. Mm-hmm. And that's been eroded. And there's a lot of fear right now that we have people that are in high places in government mm-hmm. that want to basically get in the way of the will of the American voter and the American people. Mm-hmm. And there's concern that Robert Mueller and his team, for whatever reason, they're looking into everything they possibly can look into in terms of potential collusion, the Trump campaign in Russia. Mm-hmm. And yet this one thing that seems to be kind of glaring out at everyone, the elephant in the room, is why on earth was the FBI so willing to use a phony dossier that had been funded by the president's opponents as a reason to go out and get a FISA warrant, or God forbid, actually mm-hmm. put some kind of, dare I say, spy inside the Trump campaign?
Yeah, where did this begin? And I think that's why we're supporting a resolution for a second special counsel. You can't expect this agency, the FBI or the DOJ, to investigate themselves. And that's why we're looking into it. There's a lot of, I signed on to a letter earlier in the year where we really spelled out. It was originally co-sponsored with Ron DeSantis and Congressman Ron DeSantis from Florida. Mm-hmm. And in that, we actually spelled out specific facts that we know were undisputed, and those facts and what we thought were potentially violations of federal statutes. And we set forth the facts, the undisputed facts, and followed that up with the sections of law, made it very easy for them to look into themselves. Mm-hmm. But you know they're not going to look into their own investigation, which is why, unfortunately, we have to have a second special counsel. We have, an Inspector General's report that's coming out soon, but the Inspector General doesn't have the power to do the same type of investigation we're looking at. We want to know, when did this whole Hillary Clinton email scandal end? When did the Donald Trump collusion and Russia probes start, and why? And why was there, it appears to be, an informant hired by our own government to use a dossier that was created as a opposition research tool, brought to a FISA court, but yet not disclosed that this was actually provided by a political operative and paid for by a political operative? And that was among the first things that we called for in our letter with Congressman DeSantis was, this is a violation of federal election law, and that's just one element of it. But I mean, is this what we have? One, yeah. Trust me, I'm an attorney. I'm a law and order person. I believe in equal justice under the law. Mm-hmm. But we should, we have professionals in office who I think are equally as upset and offended, not just the American people, but people who are serving in these positions who are saying, hey, we don't like what's going on at the top here. We are unbiased. We don't care about political parties. We just want the rule of law to be observed and to be recognized here. We took an oath.
You mentioned your background as a lawyer. I'll tell you my background as a journalist. Yeah. If a source tells me something, right? First of all, I quadruple check the thing.
Absolutely.
But I also try and think about what motivates that source. And to me, this is kind of sort of basic, right? Like there should be some FBI 101 class for James Comey, because he should have cared who funded that document.
I agree, and I'm actually in the same boat as you are. I owned a newspaper. I was a newspaper publisher and an editor, and I went out and dug up stories and did investigative journalism, a lost art that appears to be disappearing in our journalism today. Why aren't why isn't the media jumping all over this and saying, wait, we don't care what political party somebody's in. Look, I, as a member of the state assembly when I was in New York, I called out both sides, and we had plenty of corruption. We had more corruption to go around than probably any other state in the country. And I called out Republicans and Democrats alike when there was corruption or something that was going wrong in government. And that was my instinct as a reporter. And when I was a reporter, I went after some of the biggest fish in the pond in my own local community who happen to be Republicans, and I'm a Republican. So I feel like that's, who we are as core citizens, we care about the rule of law, and it doesn't matter.
When he told our own Brett Baer that he didn't think it was relevant to tell the president who had paid for the dossier, and he didn't really particularly care who paid for the dossier. I thought, how could that be?
Yeah.
Because without knowing who paid for it, you can't possibly really understand whether the thing is real or not, and that makes you really question. And then you couple that with the call to the buddy at Columbia, who then leaks the story to the New York Times so he can get the special prosecutor. Especially, I mean, it just snowballs, and I really do question where we're heading and how much influence some of these people in big government have.
Yeah, and how about let's take it another step further. This evidence that was presented as credible evidence to a FISA court without disclosing to a court that this was political documents, you know, that's just another level and another layer. And there's an awful lot here that really needs to be looked into. And I'm a conservative. I care about the taxpayer money. But look, Robert Mueller spent $46 million to indict 13 Russian nationals who we spent, what, a couple $1 million? And guess what we got? We can't get personal jurisdiction over these 13 people, and there's nothing coming of it. But the American public put out a lot of money on what looks to be, you know, a wild goose chase when we have something right in front of us.
Well,
that we've spelled out basically
you
easily.
Keep working on it, because the American people want answers. I, as a journalist, want answers, and at least hopefully that will help restore everyone's faith in the wonderful government we should have. Anyway, Congresswoman, thank you so much. It's good to see you. Happy Memorial Day.
Thank you. I appreciate it.